I was about 29 years old when I started getting myself involved in the church and its parish activities. I have four children now in the age or in the generation of the millennial, the Gen Z, and my youngest even in the generation of the Gen A. The tradition of the novenas are still very strong in our parish of the St. Alphonsus Mary de Liguri, Magallanes, Makati, and also because more than we have a lot of parishioners who are in the age above 55. Although it would seem like an old school way of praying, I did not at that time have much choice but to participate on this way of traditional kind of prayer that was the only way for me to get closer into practicing the faith. These were just steps to get me close to the church and the people in it. Being involved in a community of people and practicing their way of praying has also encouraged my children and my family to learn the ABCs of the practice of our religion. But I do not believe would be enough to bring them in the core belief of our Catholic faith, especially that what they pick up more often is taken from the influence of the internet and may easily overshadow the efforts of the core belief and teachings and the mission of the church. Based on some interviews from catechists, parents, and some other professionals in the field of psychology and those who are studying the generational gap, my own experience with my children as well, there is a mentality in their generation that I have gathered. First, that they have lost the concept that the source of happiness, joy, peace comes from faith or from the will of God. Second, that they see themselves today as a sort of a victim of the world by the difficulty it presents, and that they even blame my generation, as I belong in Gen X, for the cause of the sufferings of their generation. For example, I'll give you one example would be um, discrimination or uh, the ecological problems. Thirdly, they feel one with those or they feel in solidarity with those who present themselves as victims as well, particularly for a group of people who probably have questions about the morals of abortion or the gender ideology and many others. And fourthly, they do not want to do anything with my generation, for example, on how we do things. Because for them, it cannot be applicable to their world today, which is highly technological, and therefore, with a with this power um, available to them, for example, the information that they receive, they do not think there is a need for them to refer to us or to the wisdom of the older generation. For me, the transmission of faith cannot depend all on the use of technology because although technology can be a useful tool for communication and instruction, but together with it are also the evils as well, and that can form into an addiction or forms of pleasure, such as gaming, pornography, and social media, that I feel is more harmful as they create a psychoneurological mental illness that can incapacitate a person to love for life without professional intervention. Postmodernism, wherein the existence of God is now being questioned among the youth, is also a factor that poses challenges in the works of the church in the liturgy. Most of the young people no longer see the need to personally attend the Eucharist and receive the sacrament for lack of knowing the need for it. In my opinion, if a team of priests, religious lay leaders can present a more attractive way to pull them out from depending on the virtual world to seek for their happiness there, and instead offering them an experience of faith with a new way of gathering, for example, because the liturgy already provides beautifully the core beliefs of the Catholic Church. I say new way because there can be more creative ways in organizing ourselves in the areas of support that our church can provide to transmit the faith experienced by the saints, for example, can also be done by way of immersion or of pilgrimage or anything that can take them away in the virtual world. We can perhaps hold, number one, pilgrimages in a combined sense, actual and virtual. Second, community gatherings wherein professional help can be provided and in both the spiritual and scientific point of view. Third, an outdoor appreciation of God's creation, how faith explains science, or how can they work intertwined hand in hand, how each created thing is in communion to one another, how the Father is present in all created things, and of course, if there's a Father, there's a Son, etc., etc. This can just be a starting point. Except for a few exceptions, like Carlos Acutis, called for a particular mission in the church in his love for the Eucharist among the youth. I believe the traditional way of presenting novenas and structured prayers have not translated yet more deeply into a kind of faith experience enough to encourage them to participate fully alive as Christians in the church and even in its liturgical celebrations. We are competing with their avenues in the internet of instant answers, entertainments, laughters, TikToks, and Facebook pages, and who knows what's more to come. We need to experiment on ways and means to unbusy our youth and find themselves unbusy in the virtual world, but find themselves instead a space in time in the world where they can hear the voice of divine revelation.